Welcome back. Let's continue from where we remained. Few short mentions before we will start to actually dig in some very consistent, different all kinds of materials. The idea is the structure, or let's say the way I present all these informations, even though they are not informations. I'm also currently live learning and researching with you, so it's actually live. It's not a course. I'm not trying to present you here my conclusions, but actually I'm trying to navigate lively with my knowledge and common sense through the all of these topics contains, or it's somehow relevant. But the idea is, even though it's a low quality structure, it's a very long material, not that much edited, not that much well taught, to be attractive, to be fluent, to be, how we always or sometimes like quality material. This is just a natural process, which if you can make on your own better than me, then that's fine. If you can do it much better than me, that's even better. But if you can't do this, or you just rather go to a 10 minutes video and search the truth out there, or you are not interested into the details and somehow to explain with values, or just with common sense of other people and their experience, feel free to choose what kind of material you prefer. Today I actually intend to present some material which somehow I filtered a bit before, uh, but the idea is, it's important to watch it, to discuss it. Maybe this video should be here, this one here, this one here, but for the sake of information, let's go to these conclusions after we somehow manage to film this and position this one first, this one last, and whoever. For this thing, I actually would like to present you a minimal, how you can call this, mind map, anyway, scheme, let's say, map, which looks like this. And even though it's not important what's here, I can publish it. It's not a problem, it's nothing secret. It's in Romanian, but anyways, it is created almost 1 year ago, as you can see, in 2024, January, February, March, in April. The idea is next one, as I said. So here are some general stuff, some theory. It's important to know it. Maybe here we have some medical general stuff, applications of the bicycle. maybe you need to know to explore that, maybe, yeah. Here are some categories of bicycles, all the categories, all the common categories. Maybe you need to know or to explore this if you don't explore them until now. Let's say yes. Here we have the usual suspension, which are based on the millimeters they have, you know, uh, downhill, enduro, trail, whatever, full suspension, hardtail, whatever. Maybe you want to know those, maybe not. Here, some equipment for the riders. Maybe you don't want to explore this thing in general, maybe to filter through that in a race configuration, in a hobby configuration, whatever. But we also have here structured and another important things like maintenance. Here we also have different adjustment, free, so with zero cost or minimum, with medium cost or with zero cost, and of course in general somehow it look like this, because that's how I managed to structure. Is not the best structure, is not the most complex structure, it's just a general structure, but you can understand now that if you operate with multiple informations and you try to filter them, firstly you need to know them, secondly you need to select in third place you need somehow to arrange so you can navigate easy back and forth, deep and back to the surface, and usually in fourth place, when you put everything out there, maybe you can spot something interesting, you can add, you can make a connection into your mind, and actually maybe to get something useful just from creating a structure. But back to this mention, I know it's a lot of information which I present from my opinions, from other channels, from different websites, different reviews, different whatever about, disc brake, rim brake, other components, frames. It's a lot, but without quantity, as you can see here, you can't actually navigate, let's say, into the detail on the specific point you want to reach. And also maybe creating this structure from the ground up, as we try in this series about brakes, 4-piston brakes. For rear it's no doubt, for the front a bit of discussion. It's like a cave, for example. You discover a cave, you start to go back and forth, try to remember where you are, and finally maybe you find something there where you actually went deep. If you didn't found anything consistent, so for example in our case, maybe I talk trash and it's just a false hypothesis. All right, after all the efforts and debates, we will see is a no-end road. So going back with a map, with some experience, actually it's in the end good, even though we didn't reach, let's say, the successful goal or successful, destination, whatever. So please have patience, or if you can do it better, do it better. It's complicated, it's not easy. You can't say just, oh, buy 4 piston, 2 pistons are bad, a fade brake, oh, more power. And from this thing we will start, because yesterday we actually, not personal, but as the content he promoted, we discovered something really fishy, really nasty. In my opinion, is not just opinion, is actually lie after lie, or pure incompetence to somehow finally, or in the end, adjust your own setup, even though you have a shop and you sell different products, but you can't manage to set up your own brakes to cover your needs. Also, we will add up this time in a blank page of Excel different things which will be extracted from the content presented from now on. Hopefully we will make a map like you saw, so the conclusions will somehow be more clear, and the truth will pop faster into our eyes, let's say like this. Let me try to like this. So let's watch this video, which has nothing to do with 4 pistons, 2 pistons. This guy is actually incredible. I think I commented with "thank you man, you are genius" for actually, no, I didn't, but I saw people who commented exactly in the same way. Wow, this tip is heaven sent. I had my brakes bled and I still can't get them almost immediately engagement. After watching your video, it only took 5 minutes to do both front and rear. Now they're great, thank you. So this is exactly my opinion. This trick is a great hack for when you're using pads and or rotors that still have life but aren't thick enough for instant engagement. So of course, in real life, when a rotor is not 1.5 millimeters, so he's wear completely, maybe you can force a 1.5, 1.4, 1.35 and then throw it away. This is reality, not theory. So let's see what is the trick and why people are so impressed by what this guy presented us 3 years ago. As you can see, underrated channel, of course. The big channels, as we see here, this is just a bad example. Let's say he had a bad day, even though maybe he sold multiple brakes with this occasion. Those were also counted as good days. Who am I to judge? But the idea is this is a big mistake.
brakes if you just want XT brakes. But now onto our shop favorite brake, which we consider to be the best brake on the market, the SRAM Code RSC. The Code RSCs sell for $245 each and offer the most power and the most adjustability. The lever not only has tool-free reach, but also pad contact adjustment, which lets you control where the bite point sits. So when you're squeezing the brake lever and you think that the distance in the lever throw is just too far for your personal preference, then you can dial up that pad contact adjustment and then reduce the amount of distance in the lever's throw, making it just more touchy, and you can really dial it in to feel exactly how you want it. Plus, they've got amazing modulation and you can seriously control your speed incredibly well with these things.
So from this statement we remained last time to control your speed. So it's not about how much power this producer gives me. It's about how well I can control my speed. That's the end result. You can want also reliability, so you don't buy SRAM. You can also want cheaper products, and you also buy Shimano, not those piece of trash SRAM crap. You can also want rotors, which also have fins, ice technology. You buy Shimano, not overpriced SRAM crap. And in the end, you can understand. I actually wanted to mention this Shimano don't work free stroke adjustment, but SRAM code which we sell have and work. It's very easy and you can control your speed. Let's watch again.
Shimano XT M8120s, which are $209.99. These are basically the same brakes as the SLX, but with a slightly different finish color and a free stroke adjustment, which, to be honest, doesn't really do anything.
Are you sure, man? That does, but maybe is also as useless as the SRAM code, and why? Let's hear what this guy have to say, and let's understand that this guy is right.
Really simple one on how to manually adjust the bite point of your Shimano brake.
Riding aggressively, and you can really dial it in to feel exactly how you want it. Plus, they've got amazing modulation and you can seriously control your speed and then reduce the amount of distance in the lever's throw, making it just more touchy, and you can really dial it in to feel exactly how you want it.
Alright, so it's about bite point.
The lever not only has tool-free reach, but also pad contact adjustment, which lets you control where the bite point sits.
Bite point sits, and Shimano own version is exactly for the bite point.
Simple one on how to manually adjust the bite point of your Shimano brakes. Now, in order to show you exactly what I'm talking about here, I'll show you my brake on my downhill bike here. So this is a Shimano XT lever, and the issue I've been having with it is that the pad engages a very long way into the travel. So you can see there's a good few centimeters of brake lever pull before the pads actually contact the rotor. Now, it's not a problem. The system's been recently bled. You can see the lever is actually very nice and firm. However, I really like my brakes to engage almost immediately. This is a lot of travel before the pads do anything, and it just leads to a more sloppy riding experience, which I'm not a massive fan of. Fortunately, the process for doing this is about...
Just a second, you can see here a two-piston. A two-piston. Alright, front.
Simple as it gets. It's literally a case of popping your front wheel out, which I'll do
on a downhill bike of an average rider, let's say, but on a trustworthy person, not someone who jokes that where is that face with that singer, American singer?
Finish color and a free stroke adjustment, which, to be honest, doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. So this is not trustworthy, even though he tried to sell 4-piston.
Now, so you can see the two little pads just in there. Now, the gap between them obviously is where your disc rotor sits, and this is going to seem a little bit unorthodox. But what you need to do in order to push them closer together, thus reducing the free stroke between, you know, when you start pulling the lever and when the pads engage, is very gently pull the relevant brake. So I'm pulling my front brake here, and you'll see that the pads move ever so slightly. Now, you need to be a little bit careful with it, because when you're doing this, you can obviously go too far, which is why mechanics will always tell you never pull the lever when your front wheel is out, because if the pads touch into one another, you have to ram something in between and you can damage your pads. Anyway, the list goes on. Now what I'm doing is I'm very, very gently and very slowly pulling the lever to bring the pads ever so slightly closer together. Then I release the lever, let it go back to its full extent, and you can see that the pads don't go back quite as far as they were before, so the gap is becoming ever slighter as I do this. And you can see now the gap has become very, very narrow on there. Now, if you have messed this up and you've gone too narrow, the way to undo it is to remove the pads from the caliper, and then take, I must admit, I generally use a flat-headed screwdriver wrapped in a sock or something like that. But you can use that to push the pistons further back into the caliper again and then restart the process. There's no need to re-bleed your system. Once the system's been bled and there's enough oil in the piping, then you're good to go. And my bikes are bled fairly frequently, so I know this isn't a pressure issue. But yes, I'll pop the front wheel back in and you can see what it looks like. Now, in contrast to what we had before, I've put my bike up on a stand, the front wheel is back in, and now when I pull the...
It's about bite point, you know, free stroke, bite point. Oh, it doesn't work at Shimano. You don't even need this screw here. This is the free stroke adjuster, which reduces or make bigger the volume of oil by pressing, let's say, a screw, which either compress the fluid, either let the fluid expand. So basically it's exactly like he pushed gently the brake lever, that screw there, either close on the gap, either make the gap bigger. Oh, at Shimano it doesn't work. Please buy our code whatever, RSC. It's easy to adjust.
The lever, the pad engagement is absolutely instant. There's barely any travel in the lever whatsoever. The pads grip up immediately and just allow you to get that much more compression on there. There's still obviously no sort of air or anything that's got into the system. It's still as firm as it was. It's just instant engagement. So it's a case of trial and error. You probably need to take your wheel out and put it back in a couple of times to get the feeling right for what you want. I guess I can judge now the distance that I like it at, but that's so much better than what Shimano call their free stroke adjustment on these XTs. On my trail bike, I have Daewoo levers and XT calipers, because there's no point in having these XT levers really. The only thing they add is the tool-free reach adjust, which is pointless. You set it once and then you're good to go. And they have this free stroke adjustment, which again, I don't see the point in having. It's so useless. So yeah, that is a really, really quick video. The total time to do this, including filming the video, has been less than 10 minutes, so it really is very, very easy to do. Obviously, you need to do it for your front and your rear brake. I've shown you on the front just because it's a little bit easier to see. But yeah, that's that. Hope you've enjoyed, hope it helps you, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.
Is this truth? Is this real business? Do you need actually XT levers? As I said yesterday, you don't need levers, new levers, 4-piston levers with the new I-spec whatever system. You don't need the rear caliper. You only, if you want to try, you buy the 4-piston caliper and you insert in the front for $50 and that's it. Let me show you if you don't believe. So this is not even Dior with the written Dior here. These are the 501 levers, which technically are actually Dior. I don't need that screw adjuster, free adjuster, whatever knob, like for example here, which of course you can rotate to, you know, this to move the lever further or closer, because you can do with just a regular hex key. So maybe you don't even need the ore. You need just some levers. And one more example also of a commensal. This is a project bike. I usually don't ride the 11 speed. XTR, 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 XT, rear caliper, 985, 785 anyways. A 920 XTR front, quad piston, I salute, and the ore levers, the same levers, not needing more drama. XT, free stroke, adjuster here manually, or whatever other BS, commensal with some beautiful spare parts. XTR, if I'm actually willing to install these ones, I will do, but for a moment I actually didn't even rode it. I didn't have the chain, so the idea was only about levers. Hopefully I will keep myself calm, humble, and not enter into all details why Shimano is actually not zero but spot on. It is best. But because this guy actually said, man, on the other bike I have the ore, so 2 levels below there is XTR, XT, SLX, Dior, and my brakes also Dior, but with a black paint, less quality logo, whatever things, so Dior anyways. He actually said he had Dior and not needing XTs. The same way I actually use, the same way I actually practiced before I saw his video, and I actually said, dude, this is genius. So you don't need free stroke adjust to Shimano, to SRAM, to Hope, to Magura, to no one. To no one. And that's about levers, not even about calipers. And he using on his downhill bike 2 piston. No one asked him, hey dude, like the... How are those called men? Hopefully they won't create me any problems. Anyways, those well-dressed into suits, you know, well-dressed with the Bible, walking on the street or knocking to your door. Hello sir, you have 5 minutes to talk about Jesus Christ. Do you know he loves you? And man, I don't buy 4 piston, please leave me alone. No, and close the door. No, I have 2 pistons, leave me alone. So yeah, that's why that's a joke, obviously. So with this video, hopefully you got the idea.
XTs also come in a black box instead of the lame blue box that the SLXs come in, and they say XT on it. And to be honest, you'll probably just want XT free stroke adjustment, which, to be honest, doesn't really do anything.
And even if you don't have that on Shimano and SRAM, for the 10th time about the same subject. This is crap. Not this guy, not his content, not his channel, but this is pure ignorance, or this is just a selling strategy, which is, in my opinion, below zero. We actually didn't end it with this guy because at 510, if I remember correctly,
SRAM brakes was not the direct fix. It was going from a 2-piston brake to a more powerful 4-piston brake. Riding in any area with any vertical descending will be benefited from more powerful brakes. There's
BS.
never really a bad time to have more powerful brakes, so even if you're only going up and down a couple hundred feet on your ride, then you're still going to be very happy on your descent with more stopping power. Also, if you're just a large...
This from 510 to 527, 530 let's say, is pure crap. Exactly as I presented to you the previous argument about free stroke adjust, incredible. I will actually crush really good for you guys who actually don't know and are willing to learn and to balance your bikes and your experience. Bringing the truth at the surface. Where to start? A lot of videos, a lot of material. Very good question. All right. Let's start with some disc breaker
This week I read an article.
Disc breaker in brake.
About Chris Froome reviewing his new factor bike roadside, and honestly I agree with Chris Froome on disc brakes for road bikes, and again I'll share my experience. But you know, the funny thing is about this is Chris Froome is literally at the top of the food chain when it comes to cycling. I mean, he's one of the best Grand Tour riders there's ever been, and he has access to the best of the best equipment. A lot more access than us mortals have. So if he has issues with disc brakes, what does that say about the technology for disc brakes? Now, for the mountainside, I've had no issues with disc brakes. And unless you've been cycling for a really long time, chances are that's all you've known for mountain bikes. I mean, I remember the rim brakes, and the performance from disc brakes today on the mountainside are phenomenal. In fact, I would say today I actually prefer SRAM over Shimano. This is just a little sidebar discussion. I used to be all Shimano all the time. I still like Shimano. I think it just works a little bit better. I think the quality's a little bit better with Shimano.
So, for those who try to say somehow, oh, I ride SRAM like he does, no problem, but he actually, one big period in his life, he stayed with Shimano, he started with Shimano, Shimano is Shimano. So even though you say Hope is better, Magura is better, SRAM is better, whoever is better, Shimano has awesome quality, Shimano has also great engineered and taught products. And if you prefer to go a bit to right, a bit to left, a bit to whatever other direction, Shimano is still the best. Shimano is still the best.
Like Shimano, I think it just works a little bit better. I think the quality's a little bit better with Shimano, but I really like the modulation with SRAM brakes, and I have SRAM on all my mountain bikes now, and it's kind of hard for me to switch back and forth between the two. When I go back to Shimano, they have such a grabby feel. It takes me almost a ride or two to get used to those again, whereas the SRAM don't grab quite as hard in the beginning, but they have better modulation. So this, again, just a little sidebar discussion. But
all right, so he actually say about that somehow Shimano grabs better. Shimano is more powerful at the beginning. So SRAM, you know, it's a little colder, you know, you can glide, you can touch, you can be gentle with them if you want. Shimano is power. But why this guy is not for Shimano and he's for this crappy SRAM, a lot of problems, expensive, again crap. Why? If he wants power.
But as far as problems, I really don't have a problem with mountain bike disc brakes rubbing. I mean, yeah, you'll get the contact from time to time, and if you ride through mud and wet, you can hear the rotors kind of scraping a little bit as you get sediment in between the rotors and the pads. But for the most part, mountain bike disc brakes have been fine. In fact, I really like the SRAM, I think they call it bleeding edge technology, where you can bleed the brakes with almost no fluid drip at all. If you do it right, there's no fluid drip. And I'll link a video below where I did a how-to video on how to bleed SRAM brakes. Now, I do prefer Shimano mineral oil. Just
anyways, this is actually a somehow new thing for SRAM, because in their past it was a complete mess, hard. But if SRAM actually now they manage to bleed without popping oil all over and spraying your disc and whatever, maybe you ask, well, man, this guy said before something that Shimano is good, but Shimano is able to bleed without squirting oil all over. Yes, not even a drop of oil with Shimano, very easy. Anyone can bleed their brakes. But now Shimano SRAM, they're there at the top. Finally they learn to make brakes. Oh no, they don't make good brakes now, but they at least manage to don't spill oil all over.
because you don't have to be as cautious about it. The DOT fluid in SRAM brakes is corrosive, and you got to make sure you don't get it on your skin, you don't get it on your bike. If you do, you got to wipe it off quickly, otherwise it can mess up your paint. So I like the fact that Shimano uses mineral oil. All right, we're getting off into some sidebar discussions here, but let's talk about performance for the road side. From my experience, I've had a lot of issues with, and I've used SRAM on my cyclocross bikes, and now I have GRX on my gravel bike. Now, when I first heard about Chris's problems with disc brakes, I was sure he used SRAM, because the GRX that I have on my gravel bike, Shimano GRX, I've had pretty much no issues with it. Every once in a while, I'll get a little pad rubbing, but it kind of clears up. Again, I think it's just when you get some sediment in there. Maybe I've sintered them once since I've had the bike, once or twice over the past, I've had that bike over a year now. No problems. SRAM, on the other side, for the road brakes, I had a lot of issues.
Sorry, now we talk about only 4 piston in the rear, but we, as I said in the beginning, moved a bit left, a bit right, and we deviate from the main subject. But SRAM, a lot of problems. What you say, guy, about SRAM? $40 more for your crap RSC? Aggressive riding. Oh, you can adjust, you can shut up, please.
I would get the brakes centered, and a week or two later they would start rubbing it. I have to center them, and I use this Bursman tool now. I remember one time in a hotel room on a cyclocross race weekend, I raced Saturday, the brakes were rubbing. The Sunday night, Saturday night, I probably spent 45 minutes trying to get those brakes centered. I tried to eyeball it. I did not have this in my bag. I keep this now with me. I did not have this in my bag, so I tried the business card technique, and I think that's where I finally got them centered, but I couldn't do it with my eyes. I would get them centered, and then they would rub, and and I think, what Chris said in the article was the constant centering and rubbing. He talked about the pad tolerance being tighter, and I think that's one of the issues with road is it seems like the clearance between the pads and the rotors is tighter, and so you have much less margin for error. I remember one cyclocross race that I did was an absolute mud fest. It was probably one of the funnest ones I've done, but it was slop and mud from the time we started to the time we finished. And I literally, from the first 30 seconds of the race, my brakes, you could just hear it, and it did that for 45 minutes. Now, when I picked up the bike and spun the wheel, the friction was not as bad as it sounded, but still, to listen for that, I even made a video of that race, and maybe if I find it, I'll put it below, but you can just hear the brakes rubbing the entire time. After months and months of, getting the brakes centered and then having them start rubbing again,
So, about sound, this is exactly how we arrived here. This video, which is part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, was exactly about a noise which I couldn't live with it. It was very, very annoying. No rubbing, so let's say losses in watts, in newtons, in whatever, but it was extremely annoying, and it wasn't even that consistent as in his case. And this one was also on a Shimano new product, which has no problem, but I didn't even want to imagine how would that be to just mess around with SRAM products all day long, because whoever sponsored me or whoever influencer, reporters, journalists recommended and tricked me that I bought the best stuff out there, the most expensive crap. But anyways, this is very, very annoying, and few of us can't actually accept that.
The entire time. After months and months of, getting the brakes centered and then having them start rubbing again, I realized with SRAM that one of the issues is a stuck piston. And I think those were 2 piston brakes. And so one of the pistons would go in and out properly, the other one was stuck. And you have to unstick them, and I even made a video of that. I'll put that if I find it below.
So this exact same thing happened many times and years ago. I actually have a video of me buying my first one and only downhill bike, which in this moment is actually well kept, disassembled at its place. Not even once I took it on the mountain. Sorry, I still have to repair a lot of things, not cheap things, but very expensive things. And honestly, I accept that was a big mistake. The seller was actually a crook, a liar, complete liar. The idea is that the SRAM 4 pistons were actually not stuck, bonded there with super glue, with whatever. It was impossible to actually make the wheel with the disc enter that caliper. So for SRAM, I had enough. Their pistons are blocked. Even maybe they can function 1, 2, 3 years somehow, and after a while they're just junk. You have nothing to do. Or if you actually consider to refurbish them or to make some adjustment, something like that, that's only temporary. They're a piece of junk, and after they actually 10 years ago or something like that introduced the disc brake, hydraulic disc brake into the road discipline, of course SRAM is also in present, as you can see, still piece of junk.
But the piston would get stuck, so they would come out of center. And so again, the road brakes just seem like they're a lot more finicky than the mountain bike brakes. But I want to know from you, what's been your experience with road brakes, road disc brakes, I should say? What about the mountain bike side? Have you had more problems with road versus mountain like me?
I had more problems with SRAM than Shimano. Dude, you already know the truth. You said you rode GRX, Shimano, whatever. Now you have GRX. Just stick with Shimano, man. Even though the technology is not right. So, disc brake for the road. At least use Shimano disc brake for the road. And everything is right. For sure he knows more than me because he's also a racer for career, but for you I talk like this. So to make the things clear, if we went into this direction, stick with Shimano. Alright, Shimano is like Toyota, like Honda, so you can take an engine from there and to put in a race car. You can beat with a tuned Honda, whatever, Lamborghini, whatever other crap supercar, expensive supercar. You can build a Nissan GTR to be the best and the fastest on the planet still today, smoking that V10 2.3 turbo 3000 horsepower Lamborghini Huracan. So stick with the Japanese. If you think you gain more on a side with someone else, that's only temporary, or that's just a minor, let's say, improvement.
I'm curious to know some of your thoughts. Again, I just want to reiterate the fact that, here you've got a professional cyclist, Chris Froome, who is trying disc brakes for the first time in his career, literally, and he's already having problems, and he has access to the best equipment. Now, they are Dura-Ace. I was actually kind of surprised. Again, I thought they were going to be SRAM when I first heard about it, but I'm pretty sure they were Dura-Ace brakes. But, if he has access to the best, what does that say about the technology? I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think we are going to see improvement. And again, my solution would be work on the pistons to have them retract easier, not get stuck, and then maybe less pad tolerance, less clearance, or more tolerance, more clearance on the road brakes like we see on the mountain bike side. Because again, mountain bike disc brakes, I've had no problems. So again, let me know your experience.
So the solution are exactly those. I actually would like to present you 4 minutes out of again Durian Rider about the same Chris Froome opinions, but I think it's more important to understand these higher tolerances between the pads. So you want pads to be closer to the disc or more away from the disc, but this is no advantage, as that guy over there actually saying, this guy, there is no free meal. So alright, in technology maybe you improve that pad gap, but you have something to give at the expense. So it's nothing like, oh, I managed, oh, I invented, the problem was the solution to this problem was invented. Everyone is happy. No, there's nothing like that. So, no,
they've got a perfect balance.
Okay, calm yourselves down. All right, I've just had a 30-minute calm down period. I've had to just take a lot of deep breaths. I had to get on the phone with my therapist. Chris Froome just dropped the most real Walter rider, pro bike rider, bike review you've ever seen, I've ever seen, and you've ever seen. In 24 years of racing myself and also following racing, I've never ever heard a pro cyclist talk publicly on record about their bike like this. Now, let's get into it. Let me just fast forward to the parties, because first of all, he's talking about his bike. This is Chris Froome's channel, by the way. He's just started up. And this is going to cause a lot of uproar. And I've been telling this, I like this video because it's like, I told you so. Anyway, let's get to the part where Chris Froome talks about disc brake bikes.
Wet, they work, they do the job. I'm not 100% sold on them yet myself. I've been using, and I especially enjoy the maps. There's just so much detail and it's easy to navigate. Definitely check it out if you're in the market for a head unit. Disc brakes. I'm not 100% sold on them yet myself. I've been using them for the last couple months. Performance.
Look at this. There's a jump cut there. There's a jump cut there. Look at the smile on Chris Froome's face. He knows that this is what. Look at that cheeky Chris Froome smile. You know, a lot of riders wanted to say this. A lot of team mechanics have wanted to say this, but they can't say it. But Chris Froome is Chris Froome. He is the top dog of cycling right now. All right? Chris Froome, there's no one more powerful in cycling than Chris Froome. You got Peter Sagan, marketing wise, but it's Peter Sagan, like, you know, Sagan for Sagan reasons. But Chris Froome is Chris Froome for pure performance. Chris Froome's the stage winner, the multiple Tour de France winner. So Chris Froome is the alpha of the alphas, all right? And second would be Peter Sagan. But yeah, so Chris Froome has that mad pull. But look at the honesty. But he knows that. You know, he's like come to the point in his career where he's like, you know, I'm good for money and I'm just going to be real. This is the deal. Disc brakes suck. And let's get into it. Chris, man, we appreciate your real world opinion on this subject. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I've been using them for the last couple months. Performance-wise, they're great. I mean, always stop when I need to stop. Dry, wet, they work. They do the job. They do what they're meant to do. The downsides to disc brakes, the constant rubbing, the potential for mechanicals, the overheating, the discs becoming a bit warped when you're on a descent for longer than sort of 5-10 minutes of constant braking. Personally, I just don't think the technology is quite where it needs to be yet for road cycling. I think that the distance between the disc and the rotors is still just too narrow. So you're going to get that rubbing. You're going to get one piston that fires more than another. You're going to get these little issues. I don't think the pistons quite retract quite the way they're meant to be all the time. Quite often it will work on the stand, when the mechanic sorts it out. But then once you get onto the road, it's a different story. I accept that's the direction the industry wants to go. We as bike riders are going to have to adapt, learn to use them. And I think if you're not on disc brakes already, it's only a matter of time until you're made obsolete in a way and forced onto them. Out on the road, the Oscar.
That's it. So the idea, Chris Froome, you know, the idea is you should make the pistons to actually move more easily and to don't get stuck and to remain always centered and whatever. I have another video in which these legends, these guys, so as you can see, they have a reputable age. They are not young and foolish anymore. So around here they actually present the next thing. Some time ago they coated the exterior of the piston with something really how's that called, unsticky, something like Teflon, something which glide very easily. But then there was a problem. So the pistons come in their position, the disc wobble a bit with the wheel somehow, and from this wobble it actually push the piston back, so away from their position. And when you basically want to enter into a corner and you need to actually use the brake and you need to operate with precision, you are amazed that firstly you need to pump a bit so the pistons go back into their position, so you have basically no control on the lever, and only after that you are into the optimum parameters. And after that they removed that very easy coat moving of the piston, and they remained with standard, let's say, technology for pistons, which usually get stuck. Another problem again. So what can you do to actually make things work? Somehow balance, but anyways, there's no, let's say, solution. Oh, now everything is incredible, everything is solved. We managed to make the best technology system brake out there. So even Chris Froome saying that the gap is too narrow and the piston gets stuck, no solution, no free meal. And now let's watch, before this long video with these older guys, what this youngster, also racer, have to say about there's no free meal in technology, not in Shimano versus SRAM versus whatever. Peak Torque channel. Visit if you want to see more.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Now, if you haven't seen Froome's comments on his new bike, it's pretty refreshing to see a pro rider out there being honest about his equipment and not just butt-licking sponsors like all the others are.
The downsides to disc brakes, the constant rubbing, the potential for mechanicals, the overheating, the discs becoming a bit warped.
And I left a comment on the video saying, I think you're dead right, I agree. And they work for mountain bikes, they don't tend to work for road bikes that well. And I said on there to someone that replied to the comment that the application is completely different. You've got different lever ratios, piston throws, and it's, as a thermal issue, it's completely a different ball game. Now, in Chris Froome's comments about, you know, the rubbing, piston retraction, and inconsistent piston travel is mainly down to heat. And it is a completely different ball game from mountain bikes, because the mountain bikes, you might be going from 30 k's an hour to a stop, and a road bike could be 60, 70 k's an hour. And braking energy, thus heat, is directly proportional to kinetic energy. And kinetic energy increases with velocity squared. So if you go from 30 to 60 k's an hour, which is double the speed, you are not doubling your braking energy, you are quadrupling it. So you could say, as in very layman's terms, that the road application is 4 times harsher in terms of thermal issues than the mountain bike. Now, compound that problem with the weight weenie syndrome that has infested this sport since day one. You're asking a smaller, lighter caliper, smaller diameter disc to get rid of 4 times the heat you might get in a mountain bike. And very crudely, you could say that if you've got half the thermal mass or half the surface area on your road disc compared to the mountain bike disc, and also the caliper body, then the problem is around 8 times harder to achieve in road and mountain bikes. Not only the thermal issue is a problem, it comes down to force required as well. So obviously with a disc brake, you've got quite a small clamping diameter relative to the tyre contact patch on the road, which is a bigger diameter. So when you transfer your finger force from the lever to the caliper, you need quite high mechanical advantage. And it doesn't matter whether you've got rim brake, disc brake, hydro or mechanical, the brake and caliper system is just lever mechanics, right? So it works on the principle of mechanical advantage, transferring a longer throw at the brake lever to a smaller throw at the caliper, but you get a force amplification, a mechanical advantage, okay? Now, Lil Birdie tells me that the next generation road calipers, maybe from Shimano, have more pad clearance and more piston throw at the caliper. Now that sounds great, but don't forget, no hay almuerzo gratis. Niente pranzo gratis. There's no free lunch in lever mechanics. If you want a bigger throw at the piston, you need to increase that throw at the lever as well. But people don't like a long lever throw, so you have to trade off mechanical advantage. So is the force going to be reduced if Shimano have increased the piston throw at the caliper? Because there's no free lunch, okay? So if you've got a 10-to-1 mechanical advantage in the current brakes, let's say, so you've got 10 mil throw at the lever and 1 mil throw at the caliper, that's a mechanical advantage of 10 divided by 1, force amplification of 10. Let's say you want 2 mil at the caliper, but only you're saying 10 mil at the lever. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So you've only got a mechanical advantage of 5, which is half what you started with. So what I'm trying to tell you is there's no free lunch. So are the brakes going to be less powerful, or is the lever throw going to be bigger? It's going to be interesting to see, but it's a horrible, and I do feel sorry for the industry engineers because of the weight weantards that constantly want lighter things, and they're already giving the industry grief saying that disc brakes are too heavy. Well, if you're trying to put 4 times the heat into a caliper body that's half the size of a mountain bike one, something's got to give, right? And you can't lose that heat as quickly as you need to, then it is a poison chalice for the designers of road disc brakes. I mean, if you think about something else that does 50 or 60 kilometers an hour and comes to a stop, i.e. a small scooter, Vespa, Yamaha, something like that, okay, the actual scooter weighs more. But again, it's the MV squared. It's the velocity which is the real damaging thing. And you look at the surface area and heat loss properties of those brakes compared to the piddly little things the weight weenies ask for on the bike, is a horrible problem. But no manufacturer wants to come and say, look, here's a caliper body that weighs a little bit more, but don't worry, it's going to lose the heat better and be more reliable. The weight weenies just won't have it. And that is the syndrome we need to get out of the sport. Anyway, see you in the next one.
So basically, if you talk into this way about weight, and you actually think about a scooter which have more weight, but also you depend on the speed to dissipate heat. In the road applications, they actually have small calipers and they also have small rotors. They don't afford to increase the size of the rotors, first of all because of rotation, mass, unsprung weight. They corner a bit harder if you really put a big rotor. Also, if you put a big caliper, 4-piston caliper with the same rotor, the other guys will say, dude, this sport, this road discipline is about lightweight, not heavyweight, so it's a big, immense, big mess, confusion and random whatever products, bad products in that sport, in that section. It's a mess. In mountain bike, for example, where you can use whatever calipers you want, whatever rotors, even 220 millimeters rotors, you are allowed to use, no problem, just use. You also have finned rotors, small, big, whatever. No problem with the weight, as he said. For a scooter, for a motorcycle, there is not a problem of weight. Oh man, I'm 5 kilograms more than you. My bike is a e-bike, so it is 5 kilograms, 10 kilograms more than your bike, and I need 4-piston 220 on the rear, on the back. It's not like that. It's about speed. It's about speed. And if in mountain bike the weight in general is not important, also the idea is that the speed matters. The speed. And you can, this is a question, you can dissipate heat, you can choose, you can actually choose freely in mountain bike to dissipate heat how you want, how you are efficient, how you actually prefer, because you have multiple options. Yes, because this is not road. In road, you're as all these topics present is a mess. You are somehow constrained. The technology is not there, and it can't be anywhere, because this is a problem. You have to dissipate kinetic energy, which is influenced more by the speed, not by the weight. But also weight is very important. With a 6 kilogram bike, 6.5, a 6.5 compared to 6.8 is incredible. Every watt matters. If your disc rubbing lose you 1 watt, that's important. So again, different sports. in mountain bike, you're free to do whatever you want. Also in competition and also on the street or wherever you are going. Also if you push really hard, and also if you just have fun, you cruise or race occasionally. So maybe you're curious how the pads for the road look like. They're exactly the same looking as the other average two piston. They're a bit smaller, just a bit smaller, but anyways they look exactly like a two piston caliper. For example, as you can see, for example, if I say here Shimano XT785, the model I presented you before with fins, it looks like this. So basically almost the same, not that big difference. But where is the trick into mountain bike? Not as everyone try to actually sell you a 4-piston, but also selling you the new lever. The new lever with the new piston. No, you can just buy the new caliper exactly like this. So without any lever, and only one, not two, because you don't need it and because you make the bike unstable. I will prove you, no problem, I will prove you. So yeah, the idea is you can sort all these things by the pads material, and also by the disc size and the disc technology cooling, which dissipate heat. Not by just, oh, bigger caliper, more power. You can improve the power by increasing the disc. I will show you that. So it's not about power, it's about heat dissipation. Let's watch these awesome two guys. This will be 10 minutes long or something like this. But trust me, take information chill. After this, we will hit very hard this industry, which will be crying.
So that's why modern disc brakes have narrow pad tracks, because that minimizes the velocity difference between the ID and the OD of the pad track, so that the non-uniform heating does not cone the disc as much. And the flexible mounting, the floating disc mounting, is now universal. You don't see any rigid mounted discs anymore. It's not up to the work. So in a way went pads that were 2 inches in diameter, because they saw that they had to go to a narrower pad track. And
yeah,
in
they'll
fact,
make a long narrow pad, because you're adding,
yes,
we're doing the 6-piston calipers and stuff. So you're trying to get the area for the pistons, just as you would put 4 valves in a cylinder. You want a very long pad, and it's you're going to get that by adding pistons, so the diameter of the piston can match this narrow braking area, and then you're just distributing it along the radius to make your brakes work pretty darn good.
And then of course the initial pad materials were so-called organic, which means that they might have bits of metal in them, or ceramic powder or various stuff like that, but it was all bound together by organic resin, namely the same stuff that they make pot handles out of, which is why when you get organic brake pads or shoes, extremely hot. They smell like a pot on the kitchen stove has boiled dry, and that resin is starting to give off gas. And of course, the gas is another thing. The gas forms a layer between the pad, the friction pad, and the friction surface. So you squeeze really hard, the gas comes boiling out of the organic material, and you don't have very good brakes if you're trying for ultimates. So that's where we got sintered metal or sintered ceramic pads. The sintered metal is sort of like what you can see on certain Ducati clutch plates. You look at them, you say, oh, that's copper on there. And then you get out your little magnifier and you look, and it looks like lots of little copper chunks that are somehow magically held together. It was powder, but it's been heated to the point that the little chunks are just sticking together. They're just bonded to one another. And that metal can make a wonderful friction material. The same thing with ceramic. The ceramic stuff, which is also sintered, is supposed to just shrug off rain. Don't need to worry about rain, because that awful scratchy pad material is going to reach the disc and do the job.
Well, what about, so you're talking about the gases. What about giving them some place to go? Was that the meaning of cross drilling your rotors, putting lots of little Swiss cheese holes in them?
There was a lot of theory put forward on that, but the original reason, Kawasaki's discs were 7 millimeters thick, and they were really heavy. So Steve Whitelock, who was a Von de Hamel's mechanic, saw that Indy cars had all kinds of holes drilled in their discs. So he went over to Dan Gurney's shop, the late, great Dan Gurney, who loved to build things, including his strange feet-forward alligator motorcycles. Whitelock went over there, and they came up with a drilling pattern, and they filled those Kawasaki discs with half-inch holes and made them a lot lighter. Lightness was their original goal, but people had started drilling holes in race car discs because of this gas problem, or theoretically a problem. And since that time, there have been all sorts of hole patterns and curlicues and wavy shapes. I would recommend, well, Mike Baldwin said, I choose my tires by walking over and seeing what's on the podium. And I would commend that to people who want their brakes to work exceptionally well. Try stuff. Use what works. And now, of course, racing has moved on. MotoGP has moved on from metal discs to the carbon discs that first appeared on aircraft brakes. The first C5 transport plane, I think, had beryllium brakes. What's that smell?
Beryllium's not healthy.
And then they converted over to this carbon material, and which is basically a preform of carbon fibers which have incredible tensile strength. Now remember that old-time friction material had asbestos fibers in it. That was to hold the material together. The resin bonded it all into a whole, but the fibers were there to give it tensile strength so that it didn't just crumble away. So you've got this carbon fiber preform, and they fill it with organic material, and it goes into an oven. And the organic filler gradually sort of calcines away until what's left is carbon, free carbon. And then they repeat the process as many times as necessary to achieve the density they want. And the reason they call it carbon is that it's carbon fiber filled with carbon. the preform is impregnated with carbon so that you get a solid part. And when our our friend Gandolfi, who worked for Brembo, took me on a tour, he opened up boxes and took out carbon brake discs. He handed me one. It was, my fingers after that were covered with black stuff, just as if I'd cleaned out the pencil sharpener. And those discs in MotoGP are now nearing their limit. On the racetracks such as Motegi, where the braking load is tremendously great, even the largest discs, 355 millimeters, that MotoGP has as standard sizes, 320, 340, 355. They're becoming marginal. And some of you will have seen the recent photo of Marc Marquez's front discs in broad daylight glowing red. This is not a subtle effect, like turn off the lights, you can see it glowing. This is just too much of a muchness. What you would like is that the brake disc should operate between 250 centigrade and 850 centigrade. But clearly, on some tracks, they are exceeding that upper limit. And not sure what the result will be, but one of the things that has been tried is moving the fork legs farther apart by making wider steering head crowns so that the discs can be moved out from behind the tire's wind shadow so that there's a higher velocity of air passing over the discs to cool them. But how far does that go? Another thing that they've done is to extend the disc material inward from the pad track in the form of lots of little fingers. It's all sawed radially to produce a lot of surface area. Those are the disc's cooling fins.
Oh, my mountain bike brakes have those. My
Watch and listen this.
my Shimano brakes have little inserts in them. They're wavy.
Yeah, well,
My road bike does too, for that matter. I got them on both. But yeah, because those are, you're with a bicycle, it's motorcycling taken to an extreme because you're dealing with my bicycle weighs maybe 19 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, and it's got to rely on my pitiful wattage and my great weight, 220 pounds with very low wattage output. So we're trying to make it light and strong and reliable. And so yeah, we have those wavy things on our brakes, and they do work great. They are great brakes. I'd never go back to rim brakes on a bicycle.
no, rim brakes, brr.
Yeah.
Although Honda did resort to them in 1965 with one of their 50cc twin Grand Prix bikes, had rim brakes. And I think I haven't seen other examples of that same sort, but that was bringing back an idea from the early days when bicycles had rim brakes and people thought, well, why don't we try them on motorcycles then? As long as the power was low and there was no consumer protection, they were a viable product.
Well, you might end up with a lighter wheel because with a conventional front disc brake, it's your force is coming in at your 300 millimeters or whatever it is, 320.
Yeah.
It's got to go down to the hub, so that has to be strong to put the braking force into the hub, and then it has to go all the way back out through the spokes and out to the rim. So whatever those spokes may be, whether they're wire spokes or they're cast spokes, they are spokes. And so you had to make a wheel structurally capable of taking that braking force, and that was really one of Eric Buell's religious adherations.
Well,
Eric
is wonderful because he doesn't give up easily, and he'll keep on with an idea that everyone else is kind of going, man, can we just go home and get some dinner? But But sometimes you discover something useful that way by just being very persistent, and nobody can question Eric on that score, because he was able to survive that relationship with Harley Davidson for years, and they, with their tradition of tradition, were not easily dragged kicking and screaming into the latter half of the 20th century by Eric, but he kept at it. And of course, his system was basically to say, we're not going to use the rim as the friction member. We're going to mount the disc, a large disc, on the rim. And then we're going to have an inverted caliper that fits inside of that large ring disc. Now we'll only need one brake disc, and it's at a very large radius, so its brake torque is high. And these are all points in its favor.
As is its velocity.
Yes, the velocity is high because it's farther from the center. But one of his former employees sort of winked to me after a lecture delivered on the subject of how good this single rim brake was. And he took me aside later and said, it's actually a really good brake on the street. It's only when you go
Agreed.
superbike racing that you need something more. And so it's one of those.
Yeah, when they
one
were
of those
doing,
areas.
yeah, when they were racing with Hero and all that, they were having a tremendous problem with pads, and it took them a long time. My 1125 era, they had I want to say an 8-piston. It was the big caliper. It was kind of the next evolution of that front brake, and it itself had some sort of self-servo effect to it. And in testing, we were testing it. I think I was testing it versus an 848 or something. We were at Streets of Willow, and it was a challenge breaking it down to the apex, because you would make your brake application, and as you were coming down to the apex, it would basically apply more braking force on your behalf. So you just say you're pulling with 13 pounds or 12 pounds or 1 pound, whatever you're squeezing your brake lever at. If you held that perfectly, as you might aspire to,
Yes.
as you're going and you're releasing, as you're trading cornering for braking, you're releasing the brake so that you can turn more, because you only have so much traction, and you're using it more to turn and less to brake. The brake would continue to brake harder, even as you were releasing. And it made it, everyone has a different tolerance for the feeling that you have trail braking. Don Kane is really good at trail braking. Like, his ability to get it into a corner. Like, if you want to find out where Don Kane smokes me and everybody else, it's the transition between upright and apex. And he was a devil at the apex as well. Like, his lean angle and speed at the apex was very high, more than other riders. And that transition period where you are trading that cornering. So to have a brake be inconsistent, well, it was consistent, but it was unexpected and hard to control.
Yeah.
Quick fact about this apex, which means you are leaned to the maximum before you actually straighten the bike and accelerate. Usually motorcycle riders tend to joke about this subject. So if you are a beginner, of course, you never lean your motorcycle that much to actually use the entire surface of which you have at your disposal. But if you are actually a track rider, a good rider, of course you use the entire tire when you are leaned, of course. So in this way you can actually make all of it from the brakes, from acceleration, and also from tires. This is about tires. Why I interrupted the discussion to mention this, let's say, quality, this skill level of whoever ride the bike, either on braking, either on acceleration, either on a well executed turn on apex with a big entry speed, mid corner speed, and exit speed, because it would be just funny to actually, now watching the motorcycles, to say, oh, I need more power. Mark Marquez actually made his disc brakes glow in the sun. So at the light of the sun, they were red hot. That was the limit of the brake. Oh, I'm also needing more power because Marquez touched the limit of MotoGP. What? You are who? Who? You can't even touch that limit on braking, on acceleration, or turning. But the entire process is a combination of all. So that's why I gave this example with the chicken strips, as they call these marks on the tire. Because if you don't use all the tire, if you don't lean your bike, as you saw Nidia Nazo and that clown Max Rist, maybe he's good nowadays, he learned a bit. But anyways, the idea is, if you don't use your tire and you just say, oh, I'm Superman, I'm Spider-Man, I am Iron Man, but the evidence prove on your rear tire that you are just a beginner, just an average, just an amateur, or just a good rider but not near close to the limit, be humble, alright? Stop talking about limits, and try to learn from those who understand a bit better the things. I don't try to preach for the motorcycle riders. I try to mention one thing: quad piston on the rear for mountain bikes is a very, very dumb idea. As you can see, he almost touched the whole tire, the whole section of the tire, getting it hot. This is the sign of rubber at a big temperature. Track boy. This is exactly not somehow Marquez version. You also see here a circle, which is a double piston for a track bike with semi-slick or with slicks. You can't see here any threads, any patterns, any nothing. It's just rubber. You can see he used the entire surface, so he actually is a very, very good rider, a track boy, as written here. So in this big discussion, oh, I need more power. You actually need, maybe Marquez need, and maybe in a as this gentleman said, on one track or two tracks that are very, very tough on brakes. You know, maybe Marquez and few others on one or two tracks once a year need more power, more disc, need to push the limit of engineering possibilities. You? Who the fuck are you? Or me? Who am I to ask, or actually to pretend that oh, I need a better tire, I need to lean the bike. You can't even lean the bike, you can't even reach that speed to make the rotor that hot, so you need more power. The dude who actually said that he needed the 4 piston because he descended and he had brake fade with his XT 2 piston, and at this 520 he said even if you descend 100, 200, 300 meters, yeah, you need more powerful brake. This is a joke. This is a joke. A joke. Maybe a pro rider need only on one track, let's say, maybe one section of that track. The rest is BS.
They just consistently would do that, and they work on pad compounds and blah blah blah. And once they kind of reformed into EBR, those were pretty good. But then, you know, the grinding process of this tremendous big disc that's, you know, the diameter of the wheel, we had